Well, hello there again. How are you doing? Welcome back to another week of KBBU. Where are they now? Yes, we are getting into another amazing KBBU alumni from our undergraduate course. If this is your first time watching, first of all, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you will not miss another episode of Where Are They Now? If you're wondering what we do or what are we talking about, we are talking about our Kingdom Builders Business University school. We have a business school that helps entrepreneurs come through and learn about business setup, business management, business marketing, business life, marketing, media, sales, finances. I'm talking about all things business is what we do here. So we take our students in a private strategy session, in an undergraduate course, as well as a VIP master's class. And today and every Tuesday at 6, we come on live talking to you with an amazing KBBU alumni that has graduated from one of our years or semester courses throughout the time period that we've been open since 2018. That's right, 2018. We have been graduating students from then before we even knew that we were KBBU, okay? But yes, so today we are going to be celebrating another one of our amazing KBBU alumni. We're going to bring to the stage a good friend of mine and also sort of like someone that I really look up to because he's prayed for me. He has done some things for my life to really help me to see into my future. I'm trying to tell you, let's bring to the stage Mr. Marvin Prevost! Yes, yes, yes. Awesome, awesome. Welcome, Marvin. We are so glad to have you here today.
I am so glad to be here. I was so excited when you asked me to be on with you. And so I'm just excited today.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad. We are equally excited then. How about that?
Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Yes, yes, indeed. But it's so good to have you back because I believe you graduated back in 2022 from KBBU. Right. So it's been a minute since we really collaborated on this level. So yes. I'm glad to have you back. Thank you for being here today. So Marvin, tell us a little bit about your life, your story, your journey. We want to hear about all things Marvin today.
Wow. So how can you tell a lifetime in 2 minutes?
It's pretty hard to do, isn't it?
But no. So my journey started out in West Virginia. So I grew up in West Virginia. I was born in Cleveland, Ohio, but when we were 5 years old, my family and I, we moved to Oak Hill, West Virginia. And so basically I grew up in West Virginia and we stayed there until I was 49 years old, just about 5 or 6 years ago. And then we moved to South Carolina. As I was growing up, I always had a passion or a love or a drawing to God, which was interesting. Because even when I was a kid, which was interesting, I think back about it, I always wanted to go inside of a church building.
Really?
I don't know why. I mean, I remember one time, Michelle, was kind of crazy. My cousin and I were probably 12 years old. And we were out swimming and we did whatever we was doing for the summer. And so we walked by the church and I noticed they were having church service. I'm like, I want to go in there. And they were like, well, we just finished swimming. And I'm like, I don't care. I want to go in. But for some reason, I was always drawn to the house of God.
That is so interesting. Wow. Right. Oh, my goodness.
And the crazy thing, I don't want to say crazy, but the interesting thing is that my family didn't go to church. Nobody in my family was really practicing, I guess, religious. The family on my mother's side were Catholic, but they weren't really Catholic. They just said that by name. And then on my dad's side, I don't know what they did. And so I wasn't reared in church. I wasn't really taught about God or anything like that. But I always wanted to go into the house of God. Wow. And I remember when I was in 6th grade, or excuse me, when I was 6 years old, I believe I was in first grade. And you know how they'll go around, the teachers will go around and be like, what do you want to be when you grow up?
Yeah.
And so they came to me, and well, people were talking, the kids were talking, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a nurse. I want to be this. I want to be that. They got to me and I was like, I want to be a preacher.
Really? Oh my
And
goodness.
I don't know where that came from. And well, I do know where it came from.
Whoa.
And so the teacher
Oh my
looked at me.
goodness.
She didn't say a word and just went on to the next person. I guess it just kind of floored her. But
I'm
I guess
sure.
at an early age, God had a plan. And
Wow.
I didn't know what that was, but I always felt that drawing. I always felt that wanted to be in the house of God. And so I got saved. I was probably 16 years old with my wife now, wife of Prevost. She invited me
Really?
to church with her family and stuff like that. So we went, I went with them, and that's when I got saved. I guess I was around 16, 17 years old when I gave my life to God. And then I've been in a relationship with him ever since. I've been in church. I've served in different capacities in ministry. I've been van drivers. I've been youth director. I, I was a maintenance person. I cut the grass at the church. I was
Okay. Wait,
secretary.
whoa,
I
whoa,
mean,
whoa, 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 whoa. That's a lot of positions. Hold up. Let's just go
no,
back
that's
for a
in 30
minute.
years. That's in 30 years. Okay,
Oh,
from
okay, okay. All
16
right.
until now. Not right now.
Wow.
Not
So
right
I do
now.
want to just talk about for just a second. So you said that you were drawn to church at like 6 years old. At
Right.
12, you ended up going after you went swimming, going into a church. Just
Right. In the middle of
random.
summer.
Just random in the middle of summer. Like, come
Right.
on. That is
Right.
so different. That is rare for a person to have that kind of experience at such an early
Right.
age. And then your wife, who you are married to now,
Mm-hmm.
of over 30 years, is it 30
Right.
years?
30,
She
34.
34 years
Mm-hmm.
was the one that initially invited you to come to church, and you were 16 years old. Now I'm telling you, that is definitely God led. Okay.
Right.
If y'all
Right.
are listening out there and you don't know anything about the Lord, what it means to have a relationship with God, He is describing that right now, because you probably didn't even have a clue of like what was happening with you and why you were
No.
so different, especially when the
No.
teacher asked you what you wanted to be when you grew up and you said a
Right.
preacher.
A preacher. Right.
But that is truly a serious relationship with God. That's the
Right.
intimacy that you were experiencing with
Right.
God back then at such an
Right.
early age. So
Right.
that just lets us know that anybody at any age, at any point in their life, can have a real intimate relationship with the Father. That is
Right.
so amazing. I
It
love
is.
that. I
And you
love
know,
that.
my first, I guess, my first real experience with God, knowing that there was a God, I was 8 years old. And I've told a few people this, but a lot of people think I'm
What?
crazy. But it was in the middle of summer, and I had
Uh-huh.
this little dog. His name was Skibo. He's a little, um, just a little, I guess I call him a wiener dog, whatever. But anyway,
Yeah.
my dad had worked in some company, and they had like cement, and my
Mhm.
dad had a bag of cement on the porch, and before you put water in and stuff, it's just in a bag. And
Yes.
so I don't know if I accidentally did, I don't know what happened, but I got the cement in my dog's eye. And so you know what
Oh,
cement does when it gets in water, it
yeah,
hardens.
it's cements.
It cements, right. And so I remember it's like a week and a half went by. My dog's eyes were basically swollen shut. I mean, he
Oh
couldn't
my
open them or whatever.
God.
My mom and well, I'm not going to say nothing about my mom and dad, but anyway, so they didn't. So they didn't open. So I remember sitting there. It was on a summer day, and I was out in the middle of the yard by myself. And I said, God, and this like 2 weeks after it happened, his eyes were swollen shut for like 2 weeks. I said, God, if you're real, I said, if you are real, will you open up my dog's eye right now? and both of his eyes opened right then.
What?
And they were swollen. They were cemented shut. The cement was in his eyes. And
Oh
so
my
his eyes opened
God.
right then. And
Wow.
that's when I knew. I said, no one can tell me that there's not a God, that Jesus is not real. Nobody can tell me that.
At
And
8 years old?
it's probably about 8 years old, 8 or 9 years old when that happened. And
Wow.
I'll never forget that. I don't care if I'm 120. I will
Yeah.
never forget that experience. And I mean, it was hot outside. It was the middle of summer. It was very sunny. I was sitting beside this tree. I mean, I remember like it just happened. But
Wow.
his eyes open.
Oh my goodness. I'm telling you, I'm getting chills.
And I
Like
was,
that
and so
is
I
so,
knew
that's so amazing. Wow.
it was just so amazing. And so,
Look at God.
so that's my, I guess, first official experience. But what was
Okay.
interesting too, and I'll share this last thing about that part, was when I was in Cleveland. I would go to Cleveland in the summer to visit my
Hmm.
family on my mom's side. And again,
Okay.
like I said, they were Catholic. They really didn't go to church very often, but I wanted to go. And so they would come up. I don't even remember people taking me. I think I walked to the church in Cleveland, I think.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so I met the priest, and he said, anytime that you are in Cleveland for the summer, he said, you're going to be my altar boy. I wasn't e- I wasn't
Oh.
even I wasn't even a church member or nothing. But he put me in that. So every summer that I went back, and I know at least two, maybe 2 or 3 years, he always just let me pick it up and be an altar boy. And so
Wow.
those little experiences like that
That's incredible.
just let me know that we have a purpose, we have a plan. We may not understand it, we may not get it at the time, but I believe that God does begin to speak to us at an early age.
Absolutely. I do agree. I do agree because there are some things that I too can remember at a very young age that have stayed with me all of these years. And I'm living some of those things that he showed me. And I'm
Right,
still looking forward to living some of those things that
right,
he put in my heart. So I absolutely totally agree. I think he's with us even when we're in our mother's womb. And he is
right,
right there with us, telling us all about who we actually are. So
right.
Marvin, when you kind of got a little bit older, did
Hmm.
you go to college? Did you
Hmm.
what happened? Did you go into the workforce?
Hmm. Yes, I went to college to be a music
Hmm.
teacher, and
Oh,
so I
okay.
play the trumpet. So and I
Wow,
still
I
play
didn't know that.
trumpet. I don't play it as much as I used to, of course, but I still play trumpet. So I went to college to, like I said, to be a music teacher. Um, the interesting thing to me is once I got my degree in teaching,
Hmm.
my pastor at the time was a lady pastor. And one day she just said, you know what I see you doing one day? She said, I think that you're going to be a bank manager one day. And
Whoa.
this was like 1995 when she said this. And I'm thinking, okay, wait a minute. I just went to school to be a music teacher. So I
Right.
don't think you're going to, I don't think this one's right. And
So you were
so I went to school to be that.
uh-huh.
And then I did join the Army National Guard. So I was in the National Guard for about 7 years. And
Awesome. Thank
so I
you for
got
your
into the,
service.
yeah, thank you. And I got into the 249th Army Band in West Virginia. And so, which was amazing. It was a lot of fun. We played for the governors, mayors. We went to different schools to recruit, played music, marching band, all that stuff, which was amazing. So we loved all of that.
Wow.
Um,
Nice.
and so we did that. And then I didn't really do to be a music teacher. I didn't do that. I think one of the reasons, which probably going to be like, really? But I think one of the reasons because at the time in West Virginia, they made like 20,000 a year. I'm like,
Okay.
I can't make it on 20,000, especially if I have student loans. And so I'm like, so I went to do some other things. I went into like insurance for a little while. And then I got to a company, a cell phone company, and I was like a district manager for like 10 years. And then I did go into banking in 2013, became a bank manager
Wow.
in 2013. So my
Wow. So are y'all hearing this? Like Marvin is saying, like his journey was he started out as wanting to be a music teacher, but then how many of us out there go to college and we decide that, this isn't something that I really want to do. I don't really have
Right,
a passion for it. So if you are out there and you're going back to school, or if you're in school right now and you're thinking about entrepreneurship, just know that you're not alone. I mean, all of us at some point in time we end up doing something that isn't necessarily what we have been called and purposed to do.
right,
And you just proven that by what you just said, Marvin.
right, right. And
Yes.
especially with my pastor saying that to me, God had a different plan for me. At the time, I must not have been really walking in the direction. Because to be honest with you, my I went to college first to be an accountant.
Oh,
And then I decided to switch to be a music teacher. I should have stayed in accounting because I
yes.
think that was the direction that God wanted me to go. And then when she spoke that to me, and then it did happen in 2013, right before she passed away, I called her and I said, Pastor, I don't know if I can say her name or not, but I just said, Pastor, I said, I just want to let you know that, remember back in like 1995, you had spoke to me that you saw me as a bank manager. I said, today I became a bank manager. Didn't have no
Oh,
previous experience in banking either.
are you serious?
I have not lied. And
When
so
God
never been
works
in
something
banking,
out,
nothing.
boy.
Right. Never been in banking. Didn't start out as a teller. Didn't start out nothing. I just, God opened up that door and it went straight to branch management.
My goodness.
And
Oh my goodness.
so when God has to make adjustments, he will make adjustments for you. He will open up the doors. He will open up whatever he needs to do. He will shift things around, shift people around. And even if we get it wrong at first, God will make provisions for us. And I think that was so amazing.
Yes, it is that you actually you went to school for accounting, which would have been right in alignment with
Right in alignment.
banking.
Right.
And then you chose, because we
I
tend
chose.
to do our own thing all
Mm-hmm.
throughout our lives. We're like, oh, I don't want to do that. I'm gonna go try something different.
Right.
Okay. And then before you know it, we still end up back at the spot that God wanted us to be in
Right.
the first place.
In the
So
first place. Right.
that is a big principle that I think that we should take away from the journey of our lives and the things that we're doing right now. If you're out there and you're thinking like, okay, well, I don't really want to do this, but is that what God purposed your life for? So you
Right.
might as well go ahead and do it, because you're going to end up right back at the same spot anyway,
Right.
just years
Right.
later, just a little
Right.
older. Okay.
Just a little older. Right.
Just a little
Right.
older, that's all.
And then the interesting thing, Michelle, was that the same pastor, my wife and I, we were friends in church and stuff like that. Well,
Mhm.
actually, her brother and I were best friends. And
Oh,
so one day we went to church and we went to Bible study. And after Bible study, she looked at us and she was like, you two are going to get married.
what?
I was like, you missed it for the second time. I am not going to marry wife of Prevost. I have not married her. And we both looked at each other like, is she
What?
crazy? And so then about 4 years later, we got married.
Tell us about this love story. I'm interested to
Well,
hear.
like I said, we've known each other since we were like probably 7, 8 years old. Like I said, her brother and I were best friends.
Okay.
And so I knew of her, of course, because of her brother. And then I started hanging around
Oh,
both of her brothers. And then we'd go over to the house. I want to sound right when I say this, so don't get me wrong when I say this. But some people have a desire to go out and do things that is not in alignment with what you should be doing. But
right.
and so they would go out and do their thing. Well, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to do that. I didn't feel
Okay.
to do that. And
Right.
so my wife's and I, we became friends. Then we started playing Monopoly and playing different things because we were in West Virginia, so it wasn't too much to do anyway. And
Okay, I
so,
can relate. I can
right.
relate.
And so we started playing Monopoly. So how she knew she liked me was that when I went to college,
Hmm.
her mom and dad was like heavy in my life. I mean, anything that I did, they tried to support me.
Oh,
And so when I went to college, um, my wife's dad took me, and my wife took
really?
me. So they took me to school, they dropped me off, and all to make sure I was taken care of or whatever. And my wife said on the way back home, they were sitting in the car, and my wife was looking out the window, and she started crying. And so
Oh,
she was like, "Why am I crying all of a sudden? Why am I crying? We just dropped him off." And her dad said, "Because you love him."
oh, that is so
And so she
sweet.
was like,
Oh,
"What?" She was like, "I do love him." And so
oh.
so then so after that we started dating and for a little while, and so we ended up, of course, getting married in 1991.
So
And
how many
then
years was that from when y'all started liking each other?
that was probably 2 years.
Two
I mean, we
years.
did it quick.
Whoa.
We did it quick.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. Go ahead and
There's
know
nothing
what
wrong
you
with
want to
that one.
do. Yes.
And so we did it quick. And so so we got married, and so then well, we have 3 kids now. So we have 3 kids, but they're all grown, of course. And now we
Wow.
have like 4 grandbabies.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Right, right. And so it was just, and so we've been together, like I said, 34 years. And she's still my
34
best
years.
friend. We still love being around each
Oh,
other. We
that's
still play
so
Monopoly and still
so
do
beautiful.
Scrabble or whatever. And so we
Yeah,
just
board
like spending
games.
time with each other. We really
That's
do.
lovely. I
And she's a
love
minister
that.
too. She's a pastor. And so I am
Oh, look
too. So
at that. So you're
yeah,
both in ministry.
we're
Oh
both
my
in ministry.
goodness.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
tell us about the time when you realized that you were going to become a minister, because we got all the way up to you've gotten married, you had some kids, and
Mhm.
did it happen like when you first got married? Did it happen when you first got into banking? When did you realize that you were actually going to be led in towards ministry?
It was in 1995. So it's probably about
Oh,
four
okay.
years after we got married. And again,
Okay.
my pastor, I mean, she was amazing. I love her so much, but I miss her.
Oh,
But
I
anyway,
bet.
she did tell me, she was like, I feel like that you're called to be a minister.
Okay.
And so I was probably about 20, 21. And
What?
so, yeah, so I went and I told my family, and they told me I wasn't called.
Oh my goodness.
You always got to have family members not going to go with it.
Absolutely. They're going to tell you
And
what
so
they
the family
think.
would say, hey, you're not called. And I said, but I do feel that. I said, I do feel that
Mm.
calling. So they had put me with the organization that we were in, started going through ministers' classes, ministers' preparation. We had to go to New Jersey to the National Convocation, and we had to go before the bishops' boards and do testing. And
Wow.
I mean, the whole 9 yards. And, and so I went through all of that. And then my wife, she got, so I got ordained in 97. She got ordained probably in 2007.
Okay, wait a minute. So y'all were kind of newly married and you became a minister. And
Yes.
then shortly thereafter, you went into the purpose that your pastor had already named, which is in banking. And
Hmm.
then she became a minister.
Right,
And like,
right.
what was that experience like? Because I'm thinking, like, from the perspective of entrepreneurs, how, like you said, family, you know what you have been told that you are supposed to do. You
Right.
come to that realization, and then family is like going at you, like, no, that's not it. That's not what you're supposed to do. Struggling and battling, the
Hmm.
opposition of
Right,
your actual destiny.
right.
And then you're freshly married, you got
Hmm.
some kids, You got a
Mhm.
wife, a kid and kids, you got a new position, a whole
Mhm.
new career change.
Right.
Like, what was
Right.
that experience like? That had to be chaotic, right?
Yes, at times it was. But one thing that I can think of when I think about was that as I was growing up, I never really had anyone to speak into my life. I really didn't have anyone to give direction. And so I
Oh.
didn't know my direction. I knew there was. And like I
Mm-hmm.
said, I was called when I was 6. I said I was going to be a preacher. When I had that experience with the dog, with my dog, I always felt a drawing to be in the house of God. I mean, all of that, but I never had anyone to direct me
Wow.
until my pastor. My pastor, she did, and she started giving me direction. Now I had a
Nice.
choice. I did have a choice. I could have said, "No, I'm not going to do that."
Right.
But I thank God that I had a voice that was hard on me. But the difference was that I knew that she loved me and she had the right
Oh.
spirit. So even when she was rough with me and hard with me and would tell me no, or I was this or whatever I needed to do to correct myself, I knew that she loved me.
So your
And I
key
knew,
principles, your
right,
your key principles of knowing the right voice, are y'all
right,
listening for this principle? Is that the person who loved you and the person that is leading your life, they're not going to be easy on you.
they're not.
They're not going to always just pat you on the back and just say, okay, well, yeah, you can get away with this and you can get away with that. No, they're
Right,
going to tell you the truth. They're
right,
going to be a little hard on you, sometimes even not even a little, a lot
a
hard
lot
on you.
hard, right,
Yeah, they're going to tell you how it is and they're going to make sure that they see it through to
right,
you doing what it is that you have been called to do. So that's a
right,
key point. I'm glad that you brought that up.
yes.
That's amazing. You knew her voice
I knew
different
her
from
voice.
anybody else's.
Right,
And the thing that helped you to see that is
right,
that her love
yes,
overshadowed
right,
all of the things that you wanted to run away from.
right. And I knew her intentions, and I knew they were to make me better. But I will say this: I was very hard headed, and I was
Mm,
very. Um, there was a part of me that was very disobedient
yeah, yeah.
because I did whatever I wanted to do when I wanted to do, and when I was a kid, my mom and dad didn't tell me what to do. I just did what I wanted. And so I
Wow.
found out that God had to put me with somebody that was stronger willed than me.
Right. Right.
And, and so, and so that's what happened. God gave me someone again that loved me. I knew she loved me, but she didn't play. And she would even tell me, "You're not faithful right now. You're not doing right. This." But at the same time, she's like, "But you're doing a great job here. You're doing this well." So there was a balance there. But
That's
even when
good.
she was hard on me, I didn't run.
That's good. That's
Even when she
good.
was hard on me, I didn't say, "Well, I have." And I know people experience bad things in church. I know people talk
Yes.
about church hurt. I get it. I understand it. But I think a lot of times, if we just sit back and see the spirit behind why
Hmm.
people correct us, we may
Why
stay,
people correct us.
why people correct us, then we may be able to be more stable in a place when we understand their spirit. And so
That's
that's what I
good.
had to go through. And plus, think about this. Like I said, I was very, I was very stubborn. I was very, I didn't want anyone to tell me what to do. But
Oh,
God
that's
had to,
rough.
again, send me someone that would not back down from me.
I
And
just want
so
to, can I
that
just
was my journey
interject?
there.
Can I just interject here because this is like stirring up in my spirit
Right.
because I know what you're saying. And I've been that person too. I have
Right.
been that person coming along. I didn't want anybody to tell me what to do. I hate it when people try to tell me how to live my life,
Right.
and I just thought, like, of course, I know what I want to do with my life. It's my life. And
Right.
so many of us, especially those of us that are entrepreneurs, we lead with that and we think that we're going in the right direction, but that may be the very reason why we continuously come around the same mountain over and over again,
Right.
because we will not humble ourselves to
Right.
anyone. Every
Right.
person on the face of this earth has to submit to somebody.
Right.
And even they have to submit to somebody who you're submitting to. And that person that we all got to submit to is our higher power, God, Jesus,
Right.
our Savior, our Lord.
Right.
Now, I know that many of us may not believe the same, have the same background, religious beliefs and
Right.
whatnot, but everybody has to surrender to somebody. Everybody. So for us to think that we can just go out and live a life where we are just going to be exempt from being told what to do and how to go about life. Like we're going to live a lifestyle that nobody can have any rights to telling us how to do things, how to go about the situations, how to handle relationships. If
Hmm.
we really believe that, then we're fooling ourselves. And it's
Right.
only going to end up in a bad situation.
Right.
So there is learning how to do what's right and wrong, and then there is having wisdom. So I
Right.
want us to have wisdom to walk away from this key principle that you're establishing, is that being hard-headed and stubborn, that gets you nowhere. Everybody doesn't hate you. Everybody is
Right.
not jealous of you. Everybody
Right.
is not trying to get at you.
Right.
Everybody is not feeling some kind of way about who you are.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's just simply that people are there put in your life because they are the only one that you would even listen to.
Right.
They're the only ones that you would even, consider talking to or talking with so that you can get yourself together because they've
Hmm.
had that experience.
Right.
And that is the very person that you need to listen to. You need to surrender. You need to submit. You
Right.
need to calm down and just follow the course of
Right.
what God has put in your life. And
Right.
you know who that person is, and you know who that person isn't.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, like you said, Marvin, it's the love that's going to come about, that you will know that that person really cares about your well-being, and it's
Right.
not something that they're trying to do to harm your life. It's
Right.
that they love you so much that they are pouring out every piece that they can to make sure that you receive the purpose fulfilled that you have been called to be.
Hmm.
That's what it is. I love that point. It's so good. It's so rich. Oh
It
man,
is.
I'm loving
And
this interview.
yeah, and
Okay.
like you said, you don't have to be a Christian to use that principle.
Exactly.
It's just a principle for life.
Period.
And like you said, we all have to submit. And submit doesn't mean that they dog us out and they treat us bad and all that other stuff. But
No.
submit means that, can you listen even when you don't want to listen?
Come on, Marvin.
And can you keep your mouth closed when you really want to talk trash? And so that's what submission is, can you
Yes.
listen even when you don't want to, even when it's going against what you want to do? Can you still listen to wisdom? Can you still listen to instruction? And
Yes.
so that's just a principle for any of us.
Wow. So you did you have any struggles in the whole time period where you were coming into ministry and then your wife came into ministry and you were working at the banks? What
Mhm.
kind of challenges did you have during that time period?
I think my kids had a lot of challenges because
Oh, well
both of their
then,
parents were
preacher's kids,
preachers. Yeah, so
preacher's
both,
kids, yeah,
so they were
mom
preachers'
and
kids,
dad.
and we didn't find this out until they were kind of grown,
Oh,
that they were
wow.
sharing with us that they had some struggles too, but they knew that they can go out and act crazy too, and
Okay.
so that kind of kept them in alignment. But I think the struggles for us was that even though we were preachers and ministers, that every year wasn't easy for us. Well, like year one, everybody's like, year one, that's our honeymoon, and everything was perfect and great, and we got along great. We did not our first year.
Really?
We did not get along. The 7th year, we struggled. And probably about the
Wow.
15th year, it was a really tough year. So we've seen about every 7 to 8 years
Yeah.
that, and I don't know if it's a cycle or if it's, and I think it's also us changing too. Because they say about
Yes.
every about 7 or 8 years, your body changes.
Yes.
What you like even changes. What you don't like may change. And so we realized after all these years that every 7 or 8 years, we had to realize we're older too. So we may not like the same things that we did before. So we had to continually adjust.
That's such
And
a
so that's what I
good.
would say to people, even in your relationships or wherever that you are in your life, you have to be able to adjust ever so
Mm,
often. You
that's
can't stay the
rich.
same. Well, that's how they married me. But that was 20 years ago.
Okay.
20 years ago, I was 20. I can handle taking care of 3, 4 babies. Now I'm 55. My grandkids come over. I'm waiting for them to go home.
I second that motion.
Right. And so then and my wife and I just had a conversation. We said, when we were our 20s, we can take our 3 kids, we'd go do what we needed to do, nothing but
Yes.
now we're 55, she's 53. And we have our grandkids for the day, we're wore out.
Yeah, me too. I know
But
what you
things
mean.
change. And we
Things
have to be able
change.
to adapt to the change. If you refuse to adapt to change, that's where our relationships struggle. That's where our career could struggle. I mean, even now, I'm like 55 and God is calling me to do more things. I'm like, God, I'm 55 years old. What are you talking about?
And
I'm about to retire soon. And God said the same thing. And
and yep.
so now I'm even learning at 55, there's changes that takes place. Am I going to
Yes.
fight God in these changes? Am I going to fight my wife in these changes? Am I going to fight
Wow.
relatives or whatever that may be? My career, am I going to fight that? Or am I going to go with it? And I
All
think if
right.
we can adjust to change, then
Hmm.
even becoming an entrepreneur will even make it easier because it's a mind shift, it's a life shift, it's a life change. And so if we don't change, we won't be successful. And so that's why I
Wow.
say in those beginning years, all those years of my wife and I, we had to adapt to change.
I love that. Adapt to change, y'all. We gotta
Right.
adapt to change. That's the winning principle of all time. Many of us,
Right.
like you said, we don't want to change, and I think that that really holds us back from really achieving our dreams. So, Marvin, you were working at the bank, and you
Mhm.
were at, can I say Wood Forest?
Sure. Sure. Wood Forest National Bank. Yes.
Wood Forest National Bank, and I had a couple of business accounts there, and I would
Yes.
come in because back in the day when I first started like the credit repair company, I would
Mhm.
bring like money orders and cash
Yes.
and everything
Yes.
to the bank every day.
Yes.
And
I
you were
remember.
the manager there, and we
Hmm.
kind of connected then
Hmm.
and just kind of hit it off, like,
Right.
okay, yeah. So we
Hmm.
connected and you invited me to, or either we were invited to an event with
Hmm.
Darlene and Harvey
Yes.
um, that had like a business connection event
Hmm.
that we both were at. And then I realized like, that's my bank manager. What
Right.
is that?
Right.
What is he doing here?
Right.
So we got to connect it that way. And then
Mhm.
I think I don't know how we got on the subject matter, but I was telling you about maybe KBBU. Do you remember?
I do. Because I believe I'll probably ask you what you're doing with your business, what
Oh,
your
okay,
next steps
yeah.
are. Because I usually try to do like an assessment at the bank to make sure that we're meeting all of your needs as a bank as well. So I believe that
Yes.
that's how really that came out to be. You begin to tell me about that.
Okay, and then you decided to come to KBBU's undergraduate class. Tell us a little bit
Yes.
about what that experience was like for you.
Oh my God, it was hard.
He had a
It,
loss of words. Y'all
it,
heard him.
it, now, when I say hard, let me say this. It was challenging, but do you know what I loved about it? I didn't expect it to be like
Yeah,
that intense, that focused, that deep. I thought you may just hit
yes.
maybe some high level stuff, but you went into some deep stuff about business, and then you integrated that with scripture, which is
Yes.
showing from the foundation and all of that, how God is all part of business.
Yes,
And
he
it blew
is.
me away. I'm like, and not that I did not expect you to be excellent. I knew you were excellent just by your demeanor and how you carried yourself and the times that we spoke at the bank. So I knew you had a spirit of
Oh,
excellence.
thank you.
But when I experienced that, it blew me away. I'm like, wow. I mean, she's next level excellent.
Oh my gosh.
So,
Thank you.
and then I knew that you loved God too, which was an
Yes.
added bonus. And
Yes.
so, and so when I began to go through that class and just the deepness and the detail and how you gave instructions for the class, but you said, hey, if you need individual attention, let me know. I will even
Yes.
give you some individual attention if needed, because I want to make sure that you are successful. So I knew, and thinking back about my pastor, her heart was right. And even
Woo.
when she was hard on me, I knew where her heart was. And so I
Right.
found with you, not that you were hard on us, but you were hard on us as a teacher
Yes.
sometimes because it was so
Yes.
detailed, but I knew your heart. And so
Oh.
you wasn't there for, and I'm not just saying this is true. I knew that you were not just doing this for the money. I knew
Oh
that your
no.
heart I knew that your heart was in the right place. I knew that you wanted
Oh.
people and entrepreneurs to grow and to blossom and to go for their dreams. And so I think that's what made the world of difference. I mean, I've been in school before to where, hey, just read this and you're done.
Oh my
But
goodness.
like in college, that's how my college was. The teachers
Yeah.
didn't care. I'm not to say they didn't care, but I guess there were so many students they couldn't really give that individual attention. And so sometimes I didn't feel like they really cared about my success.
Right.
But I think with you and even the different teachers that you brought on, everyone cared
Yes.
and they showed that they
Everybody.
cared. And so
Thank you
that's
so
what I think
much.
that's what I love the most about the
Oh,
course
I appreciate that.
was
Thank
that
you
you love
so
you
much.
care about us, you care about the
I
students,
do. I
and
do
you were
so
very
much that we are
detailed.
here in Where Are They Now?
Well, true, true. And so that's what I would say. If someone's thinking about the school, you need to do it. You need to go for it.
Wow.
If you're thinking about starting a business, you need to do this. If you're thinking of, even if you don't know what your next step is, but you just feel like you want to be an entrepreneur and you need
Wow.
someone to speak into your life, like I had someone speak into my life, then be a part of this. You may not know where you're going yet, but when you get into this, I believe that you're going to begin to say, okay, this is where I'm probably good at. Or this is
Oh,
where maybe God will start speaking to you too and saying, this is the direction that you need to go. Or um, maybe just a light bulb will happen, whatever.
yes.
Um, so I would say get into this classes. And
Yes.
when I went, I think it was like a 6 month class, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a 6 month over the summer, spring and summer. Yeah.
Right. It was like
We
six
don't do that
months.
anymore though.
Yeah, right. It
we
was like
we
six
don't do the
months.
spring summer class no more.
Right. And it
We
was
take a
like
break.
every Wednesday night from 7 to 9,
Yeah.
9:30. You just stayed on as
Yeah.
long as you needed to. But it
Yes.
was just it was amazing. It really was.
Thank you so much. So what led you to KBBU? You were thinking about starting a business or was it ministry? What led you to KBBU exactly?
It was both. So even though I was at the bank, I wanted to be a real estate agent too.
Okay.
So I did it for the real estate agent side. It was more on the ministry side, but I was
Yes.
also learning things for the um, for the others, for the business side. I'm getting my mind to get for the other side too. So it was for
Okay.
ministry, but I was also for the real estate agent, and so
Yes.
um, and so that's why I took that.
Okay. And so you ended up, I believe you ended up establishing the ministry side instead of the
I
real
did.
estate side.
Yeah, so I stayed with the ministry. Now, one thing is I did switch banks, and so when I switched banks, I couldn't be a real estate agent any longer because they
Oh,
just
okay.
that was a conflict of interest,
Oh, I
and
didn't know
so
that.
I had to put that down. But I didn't
Gotcha.
put down ministry, and
Okay.
so we're still continuing in a lot of areas in ministry right now.
So tell us, Marvin, what are you doing now? Where are you at?
Well, an exciting thing is that my wife and I, um, we got our doctorate degrees, which was
Woo!
exciting. Yeah, I
Congratulations!
got mine in theology,
All
and then she
right.
got her master or her doctorate degree in Christian counseling and trauma.
Oh my
And so we
goodness,
just
that
got
is
this
so
in May.
amazing.
And so I went to your school, and which was amazing. And then I went to this school, which was really good as well. So we got our doctorate degrees. Right
Congratulations.
now, we're pastors of pastors right now. So
Okay.
that's where we're doing ministry. So we have an organization called Lead, which is leaders equipped, anointed, and driven. And so
Nice.
we cover pastors, we cover leaders. And so what we do is we
Nice.
have bishops and evangelists and different people within ministry that we are their covering per se. So we cover them
Wow. That's
for
so
their
good.
for their ministry. We have I'm a person who's an evangelist who we cover them in their evangelism. They do a lot of street events. They do a lot of evangelism, salvations in the street. I mean, they just do so much in out in the they go into the hedges and the highways,
I
and they
love it.
compel the people to come in. And so we're covering for them. So we provide leadership training for them. We usually do leadership training twice a month. And then we also do one-on-one mentorship and counseling every month. We talk
Wow.
about whatever they need to talk about. And the
Okay.
great
So
thing with it, I'm sorry.
I was just going to ask if how could someone sign up for your services if they
Mm-hmm,
are a leader or in ministry, a
mm-hmm,
pastor,
mm-hmm.
or any position of leadership? How would they be able to sign up?
Our email is leadleaders25@gmail.com. So
Hmm.
leadleaders25@gmail.com.
Lead
And they
Leaders
can
25.
inquire to get more information. What we do is we'll
Okay.
send them electronically some information about the ministry, about what we do, our bylaws, what we believe in. We'll send that to them as well, so they can review that information. And then what we do is we'll set up a one-on-one time with them so that we can answer any additional questions that they may have and do kind of like an informal interview with my wife and I because she's the co-founder of Lead. And
Love
so it's
it.
my wife
Love
and I doing
it.
it together, which is amazing too.
That is so
And
great.
so
That
we
is.
kind of do a debrief with the pastors or whomever the ministry is, and we find out what their needs are. And then
Okay.
we make sure that it's a right fit for both of us. Um,
Got it.
and so we want to make sure that that is the right fit. Um, and so what God had showed us with the Lead, and before Lead, when we lived in West Virginia, we had Extreme Ministries International Fellowship. So kind
Okay.
of in kind of in the same ballpark. This was just a little bit more focus on different things. But one of the things that God showed us was that there's so many leaders, pastors, evangelists,
Hmm.
apostles, bishops, whomever, that they are in organizations, but they never hear from their organization. The only
Wow.
time they hear from them or get support from their organization is when, like, if it's time for a conference or it's time to send in their monies for their for their tithes or gifts or whatever. And they never had that true support. And so God told us that we have that one-on-one time with them,
Wow.
because so many pastors are missing that. And
Yes,
and
I
it's
do
and
agree.
yeah, and so and we read a statistic that said that pastors are like the second or third group or profession that has the highest rate of suicide.
My God.
And so we really want to pour into leadership. We listen, like I said, and we focus not just on the ministry part of it, but we try to focus on the life. So we look
Right.
at that. We'll talk about credit. We'll talk about if they want to, like their health. We'll talk about ways to improve health. We'll talk about ways to improve finances or whatever. And we don't know it all. So of
Right.
course we have specialized people like Michelle Green,
Oh
who
my
we
goodness.
will who we will refer people to.
I
And
appreciate
so
it so much.
and
Yes.
so so we've done that, and so we know that we don't know it all, but we've made those connections with others that can assist people in
Yes.
getting better or whatever that they're needing. And so it's really that one. It's just that it goes back to relationship, and
Yes.
so we want to have a great relationship. Um, will we ever be pastors again? I don't know. I don't know. We were pastors in West Virginia for quite a few years. So we
So
understand what it means to be a pastor.
so the difference between pastoring and just being in ministry, what is that
Mhm.
exactly?
Well, being a pastor is that you're over a specific flock in a
Okay.
community. Um, the difference with us is that we're the pastor for the pastors, and so we're
Okay.
that 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 contact for the pastors when they need advice, when they need an advisor,
Yes.
when they just need to fuss and complain, when they need whatever that they're needing.
I love it.
Um,
Yes.
and then
That
so
is,
they won't be out there by themselves either with that,
yeah.
because like you said, everyone has to listen to someone,
There you go. Yes.
and
That's
someone has
it.
to be able to take correction from someone, or you have to take advice from someone. and
Mm-hmm.
so and so that's what God has allowed us to do, and we love that. Now we're
That is
still involved in the
amazing.
local church. We go to a church in Charlotte, North Carolina. Love the
Okay.
church. Have Life Church. We love
Awesome.
it. It's an amazing dynamic church, and
All
I help my
right.
pastor a lot. I serve a lot, and I serve not just in like official titles and stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
even in our church, I'm like I want to be an usher, and
All
they're like,
right.
why do you want to be an usher? And you're, well, my title for ministry is an apostle. And so they're like,
Okay.
so why is an apostle or a pastor? Why do you want to be? Because I want to serve. And so I think, and then somebody made the comment, they're like, well, isn't that going to humble you? Isn't that a demotion? What? I'm like, no, it's not. When you have a heart to serve,
That's right.
then that's the difference between a position and a servant.
Well, there's that heart again from your original pastor coming right
Right,
through. Your heart is
right.
showing on your sleeve.
Right. Right. That's true. And they even
I
say I
love that.
preach like her too.
Oh, I believe it. I do. I mean, we speak the language of the ones that we are conquered by, and we are conquered by God's people. That's who we
Right.
are conquered by. We're conquered by him, and
Right.
his
Right.
his word. So, of
Right.
course, the way that we learn is our language. That's how we
Right.
speak.
Right.
Yes, it is. I love
And so a
that.
lot of the things that you taught us in the
Congratulations.
class, I'm able to put into practice. And that's what I love too,
Wow.
because I mean you taught us
Oh,
about grant writing, or the high
yes.
level parts of it. You taught us about the financial part of the business, which you can put that
Mm-hmm.
over into ministry. You taught us all the basics of getting all the paperwork together and what you need to do, and through the state and all that stuff. You taught us marketing. I mean, so how to market things and how to be effective in that. And so
Yes.
I can use that in ministry too. Um, And we've even used it, like my wife and I, we've written a few books. Well, I've written one book. I'm finishing a second book, and which should be hopefully out there
Amazing.
by the end of the year. It's more of a devotional, kind of like a devotional. Um,
Yes.
it's a book where it's a daily devotional, a 90-day daily devotional.
Love
But it's
it.
like a 2 or 3 minute quick thing to where, so I'll
Okay.
give you something, there'll be scripture with it, and then ask a few questions about that. Um, and so I'm excited about that one, and almost really finished with it. I'm doing my second review of everything,
Oh my
and then I'm
goodness.
gonna have my wife read it, and then I got
Hmm.
to turn it over to the publisher too.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
so we
we're right
also
on the cusp of being able to have a new release. I love
right. Yeah, so we're
it.
excited about that, and my wife's also writing a book too. Well, she already has one book out as
What?
well. So her
Okay.
book,
Go ahead.
yeah, her book is called um, pref, pref, um, Lord, I can't say the word. Prefaces poetry, um, but anyway, it's on Amazon. So both of our books are
Amazon.
on
Okay.
Amazon. And
Preferences
so, but
poetry.
hers is a poetry book,
A
which was
poetry
amazing.
book. How lovely. Oh my
Yes,
gosh. I'm excited to get that.
yeah. So,
Yes,
so
yes,
God is
yes.
doing a lot, but
That's amazing.
He's also given us time to spend with our family, continue building our grandchildren. God did put me on a small, I guess, sabbatical for a few
Ah.
years when we had a grandbaby because we had ended up taking care of him. And so God was like,
Oh.
now your focus is him.
Oh my
And so he kind of
goodness.
stepped us back. He didn't take us out of ministry, but he stepped us
Right?
back a little bit so we can focus on our family
I love
and
that.
to pour
'Cause
into
it's
our
so
family.
important.
So that's
Family is
change
so
again.
important. Yep, that's
So we had
right.
to adapt to the change. I could have said, no, everything is going great with ministry. God is really moving. He's opening up, and he was. I mean, he was opening up doors like crazy up until 2019, 2020, when we got Roman. I said his name, I'm
Oh.
sorry, but when we got Roman. And
Oh, you can
so
say his
God was
name.
opening up. I mean, so many things were happening. I'm like, I don't know, God. You want me to
Yeah.
step back and not take any preaching engagements for a while? You want me to step back in this, step back in that? And I could have told him no.
Yeah.
And I could have said, no, too many things are going great. I'm not stepping back.
And then what would
Um,
have happened?
it
It
would have
would
fell
have fell
apart
apart.
anyway. It would have fell apart anyway.
It would
Um,
have fell apart anyway.
it would have
That's
fell
so
apart.
true.
It wouldn't have been God then. It would have been me,
Right. Right.
and I would have messed it up. So, no, was that an easy time? No, because I was so used to ministry progressing so quickly, and I mean, doors were opening. I mean, there's famous people who knew who I was, and not bragging on me, but it was just the doors that God was opening.
Yeah.
And then I had to step back. And so sometimes maybe even in business, there may be seasons where you have to step back a little to make sure that your
Yes.
focus is on your family too. We cannot leave our families out of our life.
So many of us do that, especially in ministry. We just go, go,
Right.
go, 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 and the ministry is at the forefront. But one of the
Right.
things that I love about my pastor and mentor also is that he puts family before anything, other than God. It's
Right.
God and then his family for real,
Right.
like
Right.
for real, for real, and
Right.
then everything else. So
Right.
we as
Which is
leaders,
amazing.
we especially have to have that kind of consciousness at all times.
All
Like, what am
times.
I neglecting? Am I neglecting my husband? Am I neglecting my wife? Am I neglecting my children? Am I neglecting my grandchildren? Even though we don't
Right.
have all the energy that they have, we still
Right.
have to take time and think about, our life consists of all of the relationships that we have, not just our client relationship, not just our ministry, not just what it is that we have been called to do. It's everyone that's involved. So I constantly try to make sure I do the checkup from the neck up. Okay, have I spent time with my husband? Have I spent time with my
Mm-hmm.
children and grandchildren? Have I spent time with my father? Because I lost my mom a couple of years ago. And have I
Yes.
spent time with my 100-year-old grandmother? So
Wow.
those are the kind of
Okay.
things that we have to really focus on as we're going through the life of being an entrepreneur or just being
Right.
led by God to do what we've been called to do.
Right.
That is a great ending. Thank you so
It
much,
is.
Marvin. Now, is there any last words that you would like to share to the world on what it is that you do or anything that you think that people just need to know?
I would say I think we've already said this too, to connect with someone that can lead you and give you direction. That is so
Yes.
important in life. Um, Especially when I was young, I thought I knew it. I thought I knew everything. And I was 20 years old, and I found out I really didn't know too much.
Hmm.
Um, but I
Hmm.
had to open up myself to listen. And so I think that's the biggest thing. Make sure that we listen. Make
Listen.
sure that you allow change to happen throughout your life, and not fight everything. Don't fight. Some things sometimes things change begins to happen, and we fight it so much, we become miserable in the change.
Oh,
When it should have been a peaceful change, it
yeah.
becomes miserable because we're fighting it so much. And
Wow.
so I'm excited what God's doing. Like I said, I'm 55, and God's taking us to another level. God's
Yes,
still
he
doing
is.
things with us. And I'm like, God, why are you doing this? And he's like, because I want to. I'm like, God, why do you call me? Why do you ask me to do it? He said, because I love you.
That's
And he
right.
said, and because I chose you. And but he
Yes.
chose every one of us. And so I would just say pray for us, because there's even more ventures that are opening up for us. There's some big things that are opening up for us. And Michelle knows a few of those things. And so it's just, I just want to be obedient, and I
Yes.
want to be able to learn, and I want to be able to be effective in what I do. And I'll say this last thing, make sure, because I had a lot of self-esteem issues growing up
Oh,
into my adulthood, and I think at
mhm.
times even now,
Yes.
sometimes I'm like, I can't do this, I can't do it, or I procrastinate, or I hold back a little bit because of something that happened as a child, but I have to push past that. And so
Amen.
that's what I'll say
Yes.
to whomever out there listening. If you have some self-esteem issues, they're not going to go away. There's always going to be a little part of you, but you have to push yourself and say, I refuse to listen to that inner voice that is trying to stop me from doing what maybe God has called me to do, what life has called me to do, or even what Michelle or whomever my mentors are is calling me
Hmm.
to do.
Hmm.
And so be open to that.
Oh, that's so good. Thank you so much, Marvin. This has been an amazing interview. I
I
am
loved it.
so touched. Like, I'm just ready to woo, explode because this
Woo!
is something that is touching my heart right now. You don't even know what
Yes.
I've been dealing with, but you have really spoke to me in my heart. So I thank you for
Amen.
being who you are. Thank you for you and your wife, Miss Prevost. Thank
Oh,
you so much for
she's
coming on the
amazing.
show today so that we can see where you are now. And I
Yes.
hope that this has been an inspiration to you all out there. Again, remember that you can reach Marvin at
Mm-hmm. At leadleaders25 at gmail.com. Or I'll give you my phone number. I don't mind doing that. I mean, I've had it for 30 years, so probably everybody knows it. 304 573 0339. 304 573 0339.
okay.
And I'm sorry, Michelle. I want to say I'm sorry because you did not teach us to give out our personal cell phone numbers.
It's
You
okay.
told us we're supposed to go get our 800 or 806 number. So I got to go back and do that now,
I'm
because
glad
I
you
did have a
remembered.
number. I did have a phone number. You taught us have our own
Yes.
separate phone number. So I'm going to go back and pick that up, Michelle. When I said that phone
Awesome.
number, I'm like, wait a minute, Michelle did not teach me that. So now I'm going to have
It's
to go back and
okay.
fix it.
It's okay. But
Or you
yes,
can find me on Facebook, Instagram, under
all
Marvin
right.
Prevost. Instagram, TikTok. We're on all of that as well.
Awesome. We got to get some people out there to reach out to you. I'm telling you, because I know that you can give them some great advice and lead them in the right direction. Thank you so much, Marvin, for being here today. Let's give
You're
him a round
welcome.
of applause, everyone.
Woo! Loved it, loved it, loved it.
Awesome sauce, awesome sauce. So there we have it. We have another successful week of KBBU. Where are they now? So make sure that you have set your notifications for the next episode because we have some amazing students. I mean, over 300 students that have graduated over the years since 2018 from KBBU, and we are super excited to share their story with you. And let us know down below what you learned from today's message, from today's TV show. Let us know exactly what it is that we can do to help improve or to make things better for your life here at KBBU. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again next time. All right, bye-bye.